connection to the death of another man on a subway last year. The jury delivered that unanimous verdict today in the case against Daniel Penny, accused of putting Jordan Neely in a chokehold on the subway after Neely was acting erratically and yelling at other passengers. A charge of second-degree manslaughter was dismissed last week after the jury said they were deadlocked, allowing jurors to consider the less serious charge.
He struck in the shadows between subway stations, always at night. No cameras. No mercy. And no trace. For over 6 years, people vanished without a trace from the tunnels beneath New York City. One by one, their bodies began to turn up, strangled, dumped in forgotten corners of the subway system. But instead of alerting the public, the NYPD stayed silent. No press conferences. No official warnings. Just another unfortunate accident, case closed. Some called it urban legend. Others whispered about a ghost haunting the trains. But one rogue detective saw a pattern, and risked everything to expose the truth, that New York's busiest subway lines had become a serial killer's hunting ground, and the city never told us why. January 15, 1985. New York City was frozen beneath a brutal winter storm. The city above was rushing home, heads down, shoulders hunched, steam rising from manholes like breath from the underground. But 40 feet below the chaos, something else was stirring. At approximately 10:37 p.m., an MTA worker on a routine check stumbled on something he would never forget. Inside a locked maintenance tunnel near 59th Street, Columbus Circle, he found a woman's body, sprawled out just beyond the third rail. No ID. No wallet. No purse. Just silence, and that smell, of something very wrong. She was young, mid to late 20s. Caucasian. Dressed like she had somewhere to be. Her coat was zipped up. Her shoes still tied. There were no visible signs of struggle. Her makeup was still intact. But her eyes, they were frozen open. Wide. Staring. Like she saw something she couldn't make sense of in her final moments. Strangulation. That was the unofficial word passed between officers on the scene. A thin ligature mark, deep and dark, left a bruise that wrapped fully around her neck, clean, controlled, deliberate. This wasn't a mugging. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. There were no torn clothes. No defensive wounds. No drugs in her system. But something was off, eerily off. There were no fingerprints. No footprints. No signs of forced entry. The tunnel wasn't even supposed to be open. She hadn't wandered in. She had been placed there. Or worse, hunted. And then, just like that, the case disappeared. A week later, her file was stamped "No foul play suspected." Cause of death. Possible exposure or overdose. Despite the strangulation marks. Despite the look frozen on her face. The autopsy was short. The media. Silent. The police. Even more so. The woman was never identified. No friends or family ever came forward. She became Jane Doe #13-85. Buried in a potter's field on Hart Island, alongside hundreds of others society chose to forget. But what if she wasn't the first, or the last? Weeks passed. Then months. And the city forgot. Until it happened again. April 1985. A 19-year-old college student was found behind a service stairwell in the Chambers Street, World Trade Center station. Strangled. No signs of robbery. No witnesses. The exact same bruise. Same ligature compression around the neck. Same cause of death, ruled inconclusive. This time, she had ID. Her name was Mariah Jenkins. A sophomore at NYU. Her family begged for answers. But the case was handled quietly, pushed off as a random act of violence in a dangerous city. That same summer, a homeless man named Dante Ruiz was found beneath the Manhattan Bridge line, hands folded across his chest. Same bruising. Same mark. This time, police blamed gang violence. No further investigation. By 1986, 4 more bodies had turned up in or near abandoned parts of the subway system. Men. Women. Different races. Different ages. But all strangled. All placed carefully, like trophies. None of the cases were ever connected. At least not officially. But there was someone who noticed. Detective Raymond Delgado, NYPD Missing Persons Unit, quietly began creating his own board, unofficially. He saw it first in the station blueprints. Each victim found within 200 feet of a decommissioned service hatch. He tried to raise concerns. Filed internal reports. Pushed for joint task force meetings. But those requests went nowhere. His supervisor allegedly told him, "We don't need to start a citywide panic over ghosts in the subway." By 1988, Delgado had tracked 9 victims. 9. All strangled. All dumped where no camera could see. Where the sound of trains covered everything. Where no one would hear you scream. By 1988, Detective Raymond Delgado had identified 9 possible victims. 9 bodies, 9 stations, 9 crime scenes, and no answers. He wasn't the only one asking questions. Transit workers had been quietly sharing stories. Whispers about shadowy figures disappearing down tunnels. An overnight crew reported hearing screams near the Brooklyn Bridge, City Hall line. Another janitor swore he found blood on a stairwell at Union Square. Only for it to vanish by the next shift. But every time someone brought it up, they were told to drop it. Too many moving parts. Not worth the overtime. Don't put this in writing. Delgado escalated his concerns. He submitted formal reports to the Violent Crimes Division and even approached the district attorney's office. The response? He was reassigned. Effective immediately. Out of Manhattan. Case closed. Internal memos from that same year, leaked decades later, show something disturbing. The NYPD knew the cases shared similarities. They had run pattern recognition software. They had noticed the ligature marks, the consistent time frames, the remote locations. But instead of alerting the public, they buried the data. Why? Some say the department feared a panic. Others believed it was political. Mayor Ed Koch's office was trying to clean up New York's image in time for a major bid to host the Democratic National Convention. A subway serial killer? That wouldn't sell tickets. The city's silence wasn't just a mistake, it was a decision. A calculated one. The NYPD never issued a warning. The press never ran headlines. But the people who rode the trains every night, they knew something wasn't right. In the late 80s, New York City was already fighting a storm of crime, muggings, gang wars, and the crack epidemic. But in the subways, there was a different kind of fear. People began changing their routines. Commuters waited closer to other passengers. Women carried pepper spray. Homeless shelters told residents not to sleep in the tunnels anymore. Some swore they saw figures watching them from the dark. It was always the same, a shadow at the end of the platform. A feeling someone was behind you. The sound of footsteps that suddenly stopped. And then, nothing. They began calling him the Mole Man. Others said it was a ghost, the spirit of the tunnels claiming the lost. Transit staff joked about it. Until it started happening to people they knew. In 1990, a subway operator named Marcus Bell went missing after his overnight shift. His train returned to the depot, but he didn't. His keys were still in the cab. His flashlight was found smashed on track 6. His body was never recovered. That same month, a high school student named Jalen Reyes vanished after leaving basketball practice. Last seen heading into the 34th Street station. He never made it home. His backpack was later found near a restricted access panel, open and unlocked. There were no press conferences. No citywide alerts. Just more silence. And more missing people. After nearly 6 years of bodies, rumors, and silence, in the spring of 1991, the NYPD finally found someone they couldn't ignore. His name was Calvin Watts. He was a drifter. In and out of shelters. Known to Subway security for sleeping in maintenance spaces. But what made him stand out? He was always in the right place. At the worst possible time. Transit logs placed him inside 3 separate stations where victims were later found. A patrol officer even claimed to have seen him crawling through a locked panel beneath 72nd Street. When officers finally confronted him, Watts ran. For 2 full days, he vanished into the maze of subway tunnels. Dogs couldn't trace him. Motion sensors picked nothing up. He knew the system better than anyone, because he lived in it. When he was finally found near the L train maintenance yard in Brooklyn, he wasn't armed. He didn't resist. He was smiling. In his backpack, they found disturbing contents, detailed subway schematics. Newspaper clippings of missing persons. A Polaroid photo of a woman's feet, bound with wire. And a single, folded note. It read, "I was never alone down there." But before police could formally charge him, Watts leapt in front of an oncoming train at the First Avenue station. He died instantly. The NYPD closed the case. Officially, they called him unstable. Delusional. Likely responsible. But behind closed doors, many weren't so sure. Some detectives believed the evidence was too perfect. Too staged. Others noted that the killings didn't stop after Watts died, they simply changed. Calvin Watts died in 1991. And for a brief moment, New York City exhaled. But the bodies didn't stop. Over the next decade, more than a dozen people vanished within the subway system. Homeless men. Young women. Even a police cadet on his way home. Most were never found. Officially, there is no record of a serial killer in New York subway history. No official file. No open case. Just whispers, graffiti, and silence. But the tunnels remember. The tracks remember. So if you ever find yourself alone on the platform late at night, and you hear footsteps behind you, don't look back. Brain call to action, voiceover. Do you believe Calvin Watts was the Subway Strangler? Or was he just another ghost buried beneath the city? Drop your theory in the comments. We read them all. And if you want more stories they tried to bury, subscribe.